My name is Helen Hamilton James. I'm currently living in Sydney in Australia, but I'm originally from Edinburgh in Scotland, and I did a law degree at Aberdeen University a long time ago. I graduated in 1992.
Thank you very much. Can you tell me about your decision to attend University of Aberdeen and what factors influenced your choice?
Yeah, sure. I wanted to go to university in Scotland. I think that was important. So obviously Aberdeen has a great brand within Britain, but within Scotland in particular. I also had a really good friend whose brother studied law at Aberdeen, so that was a factor as well. And then I think the location, it's far enough away from Edinburgh to
Yeah.
be away, but it's close enough if you need to go home for an
Yeah.
emergency.
Thank you for your answer. And the next question is, what made you to decide study law?
I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I was at school, and I think a law degree is a very broad um, degree for people that you either know you want to be a lawyer, or you can do a degree like law and learn lots of things, learn a way of learning, and then decide what you want to do. It gives you lots of options.
Yes, thank you for your answer. And what were some of your particular most favorite courses during your time at university?
It's a long time ago. I'm trying to remember when you asked me that question. I think I remember forensic law. That was very
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And then the other one that was interesting was, or particularly interesting, was European law. Obviously, when I was at university, the European Union was sort of at a much earlier stage. Things have moved on a lot since then. But learning about the way that legal system was structured was really interesting and different from Scottish law, which is quite a unique legal system in itself.
Yeah, great. And what were some of the particular challenges or obstacles that you faced as a student at University of Aberdeen?
Um, I think like every student, I mean, it's 4 years. It was a 4 year degree with honours. It's a long time. You sort of suddenly move out of home. You're sort of on your own. You don't have a lot of money. You're trying to study. You're trying to get used to living away from home. All of
Yeah.
those challenges. Making friends, deciding what to do, not not drinking too much potentially. All of those challenges that everyone goes through. So yeah, it's a difficult transition, I think.
Yeah. Did you engage in any student organization or clubs?
Yeah, a few. And again, when I was preparing for this, I thought if I'd had my time again, I'd probably get involved. I'd want to get involved with more. Um, I did a few sporting clubs, but not many. I also was involved in a club called BUNAC, which is a club with Work America where we helped students get summer work over in America.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on that organization and got involved in that at a British level. But again, I would probably do more if I went back. I think I wasted that opportunity a bit.
Yes. So, are there any lifelong friendships or connections that you made as a student at University of Aberdeen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most people do. I think there's a few people that I've stayed in contact with since university. Um, Several came to my wedding. I think with social media nowadays, it's much easier to reconnect
Yeah.
with people. So you maybe lost contact with people, but I think again, you put Aberdeen University law degree in when the years, and you find people that you'd lost touch with maybe. So yeah, probably my best friend there. Unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, but yeah, she was a really good friend. So yeah, lifelong relationships.
Yeah. What were your career aspirations while attending University of Aberdeen and upon finishing it? And how did they
It's
change?
a really good question. My career aspirations, I think, I'm not sure I looked too far ahead actually. I think I wanted to just get my degree and and then get a job. Initially, I was applying to, for law firms in Scotland, but I actually went on I took a summer job in Italy at the end of my honours year, and I ended up deciding that I actually didn't want to go back and do law in Scotland. So that's when I decided to move into accountancy, um, so that I could potentially work anywhere around the world. With law in Scotland, it's quite unique. So it was very difficult to get a job as a lawyer anywhere other than Scotland.
Yeah.
So I sort of changed tack at the time and did something different.
Understand. What specific of your degree do you apply in your career?
Um, the ability to see both sides to something.
Mm.
I think that's a really important skill that you learn by doing a law degree. Is you obviously have to see both sides of an argument. You have to have a position, but when you're taking looking at a legal argument, you look at what your opposition might argue, and when what the different perspectives and different angles might be. So I think having the ability to look at things from all sides is an important skill that I learned.
Thank you very much for your answer. What are some key factors that kept you motivated as a student at University of Aberdeen?
It's a very good question. I think the friends that you make. I had a couple of good friends, and one in particular who she was very focused, very organized around the way she studied. So she would go to the library. We used to go to the central library, and she would basically study most afternoons, most evenings, and
Mm-hmm.
I'd sort of go with her. So it was I don't think I'd have done that if I hadn't made friends with her. She was very organized. So I think
Uh,
making the right friends who are going to help you helped me.
that's great. Can you describe your job and responsibilities at your current role as well as how it
Yep.
differs from your previous roles?
It's a really good question. So at the moment, my main role is I'm the managing partner for Deloitte in the Western Sydney region in Australia. So I look after about 400 employees and an office based in Western Sydney, a place called Parramatta. And I'm responsible, my key responsibility, sort of as well as running the office, is to make sure that we grow, the business grows and we grow revenue across the region. So it's sort of leading teams, getting out in the market, driving revenue opportunities, which is great. It's really market focused.
Yeah.
A lot of time spent, out in the market talking to clients and understanding what their needs are.
Yes. And how did it differs from your previous roles?
Well, when I started in accountancy, my roles were very technically focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as you progress through your career, I think that's a big shift. So you go from, learning things at university, learning how to learn and learning things at university. Then you go into your sort of, well, certainly in my first long time at work, actually, you go in and you learn again how to deliver work and, how to do things, how to deliver work to clients. And then as you progress, you actually quickly pick up how to lead people.
Yeah.
So you move from doing things yourself to leading others, and then sort of moving into bigger leadership roles and more market facing roles. So a lot of what I do is sort of thinking about the strategy, bringing people on the journey. It's very different from when I first started off,
Mm-hmm.
when I would be doing double entry bookkeeping and drafting financials, etc. So big change over time.
That's great. How would you say your mindset and way of working have changed since attending the University of Aberdeen?
I think as I said earlier, the that foundation of being very disciplined, and knowing what you need to do and when you need to do it by. I'm not one of these people that leaves everything to the last minute, and I think that was my friend Mary that drummed that into me. So I think it's consistent. I think I've used that as a good foundation.
That's great. University is a stressful time for students. What advice would you give to students who are currently dealing with stress?
You're absolutely right. It is a stressful time. I think, reach out. I'm sure, I'm not familiar with the exact um, available resources in Aberdeen, but I would imagine there are lots of resources available for people if you
Yeah,
need to talk to someone, different from different cultures for different reasons. Just don't internalize it. Go and talk to someone, confidentially, and use the resources that the university has available.
yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you very much for this advice. Did you engage in any internships, part-time jobs, or volunteering experience as a student at
Um,
university?
I did. I did. I worked in a supermarket at a checkout, but that wasn't aligned to any career aspirations. That was to earn some money. Um, but one thing I did do, which was fantastic, and I'm not sure if you still get the opportunity to do this, but I went on a Erasmus program, which was a program where we managed to get to go to Sicily for 3 months. So there was
Mm-hmm.
about 30 of us from the law faculty went and essentially did an exchange. So I spent 3 months on that program in Palermo. That was funded by the European Community. So I'm not sure, given Brexit, whether we
Yeah.
still do that. But if you get opportunities to do that sort of thing, I would embrace them. And again, I think if I had my time again, and maybe if I had a bit more clarity about what I wanted to do, I would maybe try and find some work experience that was a little bit more related to what I ended up doing.
Yeah, thank you very much. Many students struggle with transition from academia to professional world. What advice would you give for students dealing with that?
Um, it's a little bit like that transition when you go from school to university, is just give it some time,
Mm-hmm.
I think. Again, talk to people before you start in a role. So if you have a job, make sure you talk to people that are in similar lines of work so that you've got a bit of an understanding. Talk to the recruitment team in the organization so that you can get as much information before you start so that you're as prepared as possible. Many of them will have induction days and, vacation work that you can go and do if you're lucky enough to have the opportunity to do that. So I just think, again, give yourself some time and don't expect to be perfect from day one. But again, another piece of advice, and I always say this to our graduates that come and join us at Deloitte, is again, make sure you ask questions. There's never a silly question. So,
Yeah,
particularly when you're
absolutely.
new into a role, well, all the way through your career, but ask questions, definitely.
Yeah, thank you very much for this advice. And what are some of unique skills that you attained at the university that you still follow?
Um, we've touched on that a little bit. Probably that ability to see
Yeah.
two sides. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's an important one. Sometimes it can be a problem because sometimes you have to make a decision, but you also need to understand the whole, all of the options. Um, I think that approach to studying and just being very structured. Time management, I think, is an important one, and I think probably one thing I learned after university that again, is if I was having my time again, it would be thinking about the networks that you're building throughout university. Probably thinking about that a little bit more strategically
Yeah.
than I did at the time. I think talk to as many people, get as broader experience as you can.
Thank you very much. And do you have any advice for students who are almost done with their degrees but unsure what to do next?
Don't panic, definitely. Don't panic. I think, having a degree is a fantastic achievement. So I think, celebrate and be proud of what you've done. And then I think you know, don't be too stressed about it because particularly nowadays it's a lot easier to try something, think, oh, it's not quite right for me, and then try something else. People are a lot more able to jump from
Mm,
career to career, from job to job, from sector to sector. I think that was probably a little bit harder when I was going through that stage, but I think give things a try. Give things a try, but think about what you like doing, not necessarily about the job you want, but about
Yeah.
what your skills are and what you like doing. So, maybe you're analytical, maybe you like working with teams, maybe you like, strategy, maybe you like detail. Think about what your skills are, and then align that, I think, and just, take your time, really.
Thank you very much for this amazing advice. And the last question is, if you could go back in time, would you change anything about your experiences as a student at University of Aberdeen, or would you give yourself any advice?
Yeah, I'd spend less time at the union, definitely. But I think, to the earlier point, I think I would do more things outside of my studying. I'd actually try and explore more of the clubs, more of the opportunities that you have available to you at university. I think I was a little bit closed to that, and I sort of think there's actually a whole heap of things I could have tried that would have been good to do. So I
Yeah.
think that would be some advice. Give it a try, do it for a term, do it for a year, whatever.